Have you ever found yourself in a panic over your writing? If so, this one's for you. So in this 5-Minute Monday, I want to talk about a couple of things. One of them is to do with the word surrender. And for me, the challenge that I had over that word, it was often a word that was offered when I was in that place of panic, surrender. But when I was in that place of panic, surrender was A, the last thing that I wanted to do, and B, I didn't know how to surrender. I was like, yeah, if I knew how to surrender, I would, but I don't know. So let me give you a little bit of context. There was a period with my writing when I had written a novel and I had 3 agents really interested in representing me. And I was all like, oh my God, this is so incredible. Like, I thought everyone said this was meant to be hard. So I was in this really excited, positive place. I chose an agent and we sent the novel out to publishers, and I was feeling so excited. I couldn't believe that it was all going to happen. And then slowly, the rejections started to come. But they were really encouraging rejections, if that doesn't sound like a phrase that doesn't make sense. They would say things like, we love the writing, she's got loads of potential, there just isn't a market for this book, but we want to see what she comes up with next time. And that was generally the pattern of all of the rejections. They said something positive, they said they weren't going to bite with this book, but that the next one they definitely wanted to see. So I was all like, right, okay, I've got to write another book. And I was totally fired up, but then I couldn't write it. And so most weeks I'd be heading into London to meet with my writing group, and I'd be submitting stuff that I was working on, short stories, chapters. And at the end of the writing group, I'd get the feedback that it just wasn't quite there. So this whole pattern started where I'd finish the writing group and I would head back to the station to take my train home, and I'd be in a place of total panic. I remember probably almost 2 years where I was in the WH Smiths at Paddington Station, and I was literally just pacing around the shop, looking at magazines, looking at books, and I was just in a total panic. I was like, I've got to come up with a really good idea. I've got to write a book. And I'd be looking at magazines for inspiration. I'd be taking the bestsellers off the shelf and I'd be reading the first line thinking, what have they got that I don't have? Just swirling in this panic. And if someone had tapped me on my shoulder and been like, hey dude, you just need to surrender, I would have been like, pfft. Or I would have been like, I don't know how. So here's the thing. If you're in a panic and you want to just find a way to let that go and actually just feel the ground beneath your feet, find some space to just think, yes, the place is to come to that surrender, but here's how. So often the panic, as it was in my case, was fueled by this sense that I was a failure. So here it was going on in the back of my mind, you're a failure. Man, that really freaked me out. I really did not want to hear that. And I'd be looking at everybody else and I'd be thinking they're really successful. And there'd be this little voice in the back of my mind going, yeah, but you know what? You're a failure. So the panic for me was a way to get away from that voice. So here's the surrender. I want you to imagine you're holding onto a pole. And the reason you're grabbing onto that pole is because there's a huge drop beneath you. So because of the drop, you're holding on to the pole. Because of that fear that you're a failure, you've got to keep doing and searching and being and running around. So if that fear wasn't there, if that belief you're a failure wasn't there, you'd be able to stop. Just as if that drop wasn't there, you'd be able to let go. So here's the thing. This is where the surrender comes in. It's actually realizing that it's the very act of holding that creates the drop. It's the very act of panicking that creates the fact that you're a failure. So that's where you start. Just by acknowledging that, just by acknowledging I'm holding on because I think there's a drop, or I'm panicking because I think I'm a failure. That is actually the first step to surrender. It's basically saying I'm at war and I know there's no way out of this, because the only way out, I think, is to currently just grip and do. So I'm just going to acknowledge that. And in acknowledging that, what happens is a little white flag goes up. And there's this feeling within of a kind of, God, thank God, I'm so glad that you just stated the obvious. We can all just go around now and just look at what's really happening. So there we go, my 5 minutes to your Monday. When you're in that place of panic and you're looking for a way out, for a way to surrender, it's to just state the obvious. As scary as that seems, there is always that moment straight away afterwards where you're just like, I'm so glad. The truth is out now. I don't have to run anymore. So wishing you a beautiful day, a beautiful week, and as always, I'm here to help. So keep watching my videos, come along to one of my live events, or even get in touch if you want to ask me a question. And I'll see you next Monday.